तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ जयन्ती मङ्गलकाली भद्रकाली कपालिनी दुर्गा क्षमा शिवदात्री स्वाहा स्वादा नमोस्तुते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Sairam Lin, Sairam from Malaysia.
Sairam Sharma, Sairam from New Zealand. And thank you, Swami, for allowing Sharma and I to share your profound wisdom on the source of true strength. Our talk today is Strength Comes from Purity. In some of my previous talks, I described how I experienced the tremendous strength coming from Swami's touch. Once, when he pressed packets of vibhuti into my hand after giving me the command to begin the book center in New Zealand, when he pressed so hard, it was a gentle pressing, but it nearly knocked me over. I had to use all of my strength to withstand the strength that was pouring from his hand so that I didn't fall flat on my face. Another time, he was coming behind me into the interview room. I was already seated. He put his hand on my shoulder for a few moments, and I thought, why is Swami trying to steady himself? He is walking perfectly fine. And then I felt a strength like I have never felt in my life, a physical strength. It was almost like pinning me to the floor of the interview room. I couldn't move for a few seconds. Other speakers have spoken of Swami's physical strength when he engaged in an arm wrestling competition with the students. None of them could beat him, even though Swami is only 5'3" and 108 pounds, and the boys were astonished that none of them could beat Swami at arm wrestling. You see, Swami says strength comes from purity. Purity, what kind of purity? Purity of the heart. And he was very clear about this. He said, I am residing in your heart as the Atma. And therefore, when you are able to call to order your own strength, I will be able to add to it. Now, what kind of strength could that be? Swami says you have to cultivate 4 types of strength. Strength of body, strength of intellect, strength of discrimination, and that, of course, means being able to divide the good from the bad, to choose the correct path, not the left path, and the strength of conduct, your conduct. The strength of your conduct, the strength of your character, how you conduct yourself in life. Then, Swami says, you become unshakable. You are on the path to spiritual victory. And of course, how do we get this strength? Through purity of heart. That is simple, purity in thought, word, and deed. You think from a point of truth and right goodness. You speak from a point of truth. You speak the truth. You are always truthful, no matter what the situation. And your actions are from a point of truth. You do what you say you're going to do. If you make a promise, you keep it. And Swami even said, if you make a promise, you have to keep it, even if you have to die to keep it. Now that's pretty heavy thinking, and I hope that none of us ever have to make that kind of decision when we make a promise. But keep your promises, Swami is saying, because that is part of your action, being pure, is you keep your word. You say you're going to do something, you promise, for example, you're going to repay a loan or a debt. You promise you were going to visit someone in the hospital. You promise you were going to reply to a letter or an email. You do it. You find the time. You manage your time so that you can keep your word and that your actions are pure. Now, I am going to relate a story which I know from firsthand. which is somewhat shocking, but it is indicative of the power of purity of heart and physical strength. My husband and I were for some years volunteer teachers at the Children's Project Trust, which was a project in Puttaparthi. It is now there still it's under a different name now, but in those days it was called Children's Project Trust. And children were rescued by a couple. These were children living on the street, or they were living in the rubbish dump. They had nowhere to go. They had no education. Their lives were at risk from trafficking. And these children were given safe harbor in a building in Puttaparthi where they were safe, and the building was registered as a home school. The children only would have had one parent that may have been alive. Some of them, the parents were trying to destroy their lives. Now, they were safe in the school, and they were always told, if you go outside, always go in twos. But one day, one of the girls was going on an errand. She couldn't find anyone to go with her, and she slipped out to do a little shopping, and one of her relatives grabbed her and abducted her. When the director of the school found out quite quickly, he immediately went out onto the street and began asking who could have seen this abduction. And I must say, the director of the school was quite a short man, not particularly muscular or well, like a big guy. He was the sweetest, most gentle person you can imagine. And his information led him to a tent, a plastic tent, somewhere not too far from the super hospital up there. And the girl was chained to a pole. And the relative who had abducted her was like a 6-foot guy. And of course, when the director walked into the tent and found the girl like this, normally you would think he would try to at least reason with the man, but this was not going to be the situation. This man had a knife, and he was going to attack the director. The director said to me, I first looked at this man and contacted the Atma in his spiritual heart, and I said to myself, you are God, God, God. You are my brother. You are no different from me. And then, in other words, even though this man was his enemy and was also a criminal, having taken one of the children against her will and was probably going to sell her or worse, my friend said that once he had connected with the man in his mentally, sent a quick mental message, you are my brother, you are Atma, there is no difference between you and God. He then said he felt a tremendous power of strength enter his spine. He said it flooded his spine, his 2 arms shot out automatically. He grabbed the man, throwing him to the ground and breaking several ribs and the man's hip. He then released the girl and told the man not to ever come near the school again. And fortunately, the girl was reunited with the rest of the school. This was a profound teaching for me, because we know that we have members of our own community, our family, people like policemen, firemen, and even members of the public who sometimes are faced with what I would call pure evil. And what do we do? How do we deal with it? Where does our strength come from? This is how Swami, and I'm just giving one example, and hopefully none of us have to endure the sort of situation that my friend did. However, think about this. We sometimes need to call on all of our strength to deal with an emotional situation, a physical situation, a situation to do with discrimination, choosing the right way to do something or the wrong, and how are we going to behave, our conduct. How are we going to act? In this case with my friend, he needed strength of body and strength of his conduct. Swami said, Once you have cultivated the 4 kinds of strength, you become unshakable. You are on the path to spiritual victory. Whatever kind of strength we have, if we do not have the strength of Dharma, all is futile. The strengths that come from God and from Dharma display morality. India, Swami said, stands forth amongst the nations of the world as Dharma Raja, with her loyalty and steady faith in peace and mutual cooperation for noble ends. Swami is clear that if we safeguard Dharma, whether we are a country or a neighborhood or an individual or a family, Dharma in its turn will safeguard us. Dharma is the lifeblood of prema, divine love. Where there is peace, there will be divinity. Where there is divinity, there will be bliss. Om Shri Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. तस्मात् कारुण्य भावेन रक्ष रक्ष साईश्वरा. हरि ओम तत्सत् श्री साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु. ओम शांति शांति शांति.